So we're delving into some territory that's going to start to get interesting for me. I've said this numerous times on shows that I'm not a big fan of racing games, and then I completely contradicted myself. We talked about Road Rash, which is one of my favorites. It's below, say, like Doom and Mortal Kombat and Castlevania, but it would be on the list or in the conversation of top games of all time for me. And I've also really enjoyed the stuff on Nintendo 64. I think that's a great platform for it, especially because the Nintendo 64 really shines in multiplayer games like that. And those arcade style racers are just perfect for that form factor. But now we're going to get back to why I don't like racing games. um, so there was a extremely popular series, particularly on the Super Nintendo, called Top Gear, or if you don't live in North America, Top Racer. That was around in the 90s. There was a bunch of these. They were on Game Boy and ported to some other stuff as well. I believe one of them wound up on Genesis, I think. I don't know. I didn't play it. But I did play a couple of the Top Gear games on Super Nintendo. A friend of mine was into racing games and he had these. They're fine to me. Like they're better than the like racing simulation games that really get it into the whole driver simulation and having a racing season and things like that. That has zero interest for me. But it's also not quite the arcade style fun of like a Beetle adventure racing where it's complete fantasy kind of thing. So this is somewhere in the middle. I don't hate them, but I lose interest in them quickly. And when this collection was announced, I was like, oh, maybe that's something I'd be interested in Steam. So I went back on Super Console X and played our totally legal set of ROMs that we have on there of some of the Top Gear games. And it all kind of came flooding back to me. And I'm probably good for a while on Top Gear games. But something that was interesting that they released in conjunction with that is a little mini arcade style game of Top Gear 2. Now, this was released just to kind of promote the collection, and it's only Top Gear 2 that's on there. But I did send it to Kelly because I was curious what your familiarity with these games are, and does this kind of like little mini racing arcade thing hold any interest for you?
Yeah, so the short answer is probably not. I think, and it's a little bit to do with um, the when they have the mini ones that come out, the ability to eventually port it up to a larger screen to play it, even if you're using the smallish controls. And from everything I can see, this one, even though it's obviously very scaled down, the steering wheel has good resistance to it. It's got a decent feel to it.
Yeah, I've
So
watched a few reviews and they have said that it handles really well.
yeah, so I think control wise that's cool, but kind of hunched over to like a 3 inch by 2 inch screen to enjoy the racing game. Not as I could do that in small bursts, but I'd like to be able to also get it to a slightly larger display as well. But it overall looks okay. And kind of to your point, and by the way, if there are ROM police out there, Mike has more perfectly legal ROMs on his Super Console X than I have on mine. So, as he bought the Brome edition of Super Console X, and so there's more. So if he's the big fish here. So just FYI, just so you know. But the I can enjoy those games. I can enjoy them with, even though I think again a lot of good reviews on that steering wheel on the little console. I can enjoy it with a variety of different controllers. My fight stick, just more of a traditional controller. A lot of different things I could do there. Although I am finding racing games on the fight stick uh, not so great on occasion. My love of my life in terms of racing games, I've mentioned it before. Indy 500 on the Amiga is just awesome to play and wreck cars and wreak havoc. Um, and I've had a hard time getting out of the pit a few times because I really need probably more of a mouse control to do that, which I think I can still set up, but digress there. But I do think, it looks good. The other part was I would consider it, but I think the price point is going to be like around $60. And then for a single game, $60, I've got other options out there where I can do a lot more with those $60. So probably, if it was more of like a 20, $30 game that I could pick up, I might do that because I do think it looks pretty cool. But I do have alternatives, and I don't have the ability to put it to a bigger screen, so I'm a little cool on it. Knowing that you're not and are a big racing fan, whichever it is. What are your thoughts? Is that something you may want to add to a little small room off your arcade?
No. I do think it looks cool and it's interesting the idea of playing it with a steering wheel because Top Gear 2 wasn't an arcade game. It was a console game, I believe. I don't think it was something that was ported from an arcade game. So, it's kind of cool. Like it's almost like it's getting ported to a cabinet in a way. But only having the one game on there when the whole collection has, I believe, four games with Top Gear 1, 2, 3000, which is a sci-fi sort of remix of it, and then there's a new like remixed version of Top Gear on there. Um, I these games aren't gigantic by today's standards. I don't understand why there isn't at least one other game on there, if not at least all three of the retro games that are included in the collection. That just doesn't make sense to me. It might be a little bit easier of a sell to me for something like that because then it looks cool and at least there's a few different games. It gives me a little bit of variety. But for just Top Gear 2, which I did play through the first three to kind of gear up for our talk about it, not completely through, but gave a little bit, 15, 20 minutes to each one. Top Gear 2 is way better than Top Gear 1. Top Gear 1 is one of those games that has the split screen the whole time when you're playing it, which I'm not a fan of. So Top Gear 2 does away with that. So right off the bat, it's a better game in my opinion. Plus, it looks a little better, runs a little better, of course. Top Gear 3000 is really the one I would go with if I was going to go with a Top Gear game. But it makes sense given that I like more sort of fantasy arcade racers. You're moving away even further from reality with Top Gear 3000. So it's more in my wheelhouse as far as racing games would go. But in general, I'm just not a racing person. That being said, if they did this for Road Rash and it was only Road Rash on there, I would still buy it.
Yeah, if they had the three games on it, I might soften my stance, but it's still, $60. I could put that to better use.
Yeah,
there. So,
absolutely.
but it looks pretty cool. We'll include another video. We're, as you all well know by now, if you watch the channel, we're big MadLittlePixel fans, and he did a great job kind of talking about it and reviewing as well. So we'll
There,
include a
there
link to
is
that.
also too, not to interrupt. A couple of reviewers, including the Mad Little Pixel video, have brought this up. There's a couple weird graphic glitches in it too that are just on this little cabinet version.
Yeah, there's not that many pixels to work with, and they still seem to have a couple of them burned out or something.
Yeah.
Kind of strange. But yeah, take a look at a couple of reviews out there. Definitely check out Mad Little Pixels. And be interested. Let us know in the comments if this is were you a big Top Gear fan, and are we crazy for not jumping to get this? Talk us into it. Buy a T-shirt while you're here. While you're leaving the comment, get a
That'll
T-shirt.
go a long way for your argument.
That'll help sway us. You really, your life's not complete till we buy it. I don't know. A little give and take here. Get a subscription, watch about 100 hard nose, and buy a T-shirt, and we're yours to do with what you want. So, all right, cool. Anything else, sir?
No, I do think it's good to point out, like, I don't want to speak for Kelly, but you don't seem like you're too huge on racing games. I'm not a big racing game guy. You would definitely get the impression, I think, that we're bigger racing game fans based on some of the reviews that we've done than we actually are.
Yeah, especially because it's not. I don't think we put it out yet, but we're gonna bundle three of our racing game reviews together and have that out there so you can hear how not interested we are in racing games because we've done a lot of content on
Yeah.
it. Not as
It's
much as
it's
Doom.
contradictory. I understand that.
Yeah.
So I do think it's important that we acknowledge that, but it's really just those games that we like.
Yeah. Doom Racer. Now there's something we could get behind.
That's I would buy that.
100%. Regardless of even on a little screen, I'll get Doom Racer. So cool. All right, cool. Well, thanks for watching, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Bog Panda.